You're watching Oilers Nation Everyday with Tyler Yaremchuk. Your one-stop shop for all things Oilers.
Wipe the whole slate clean. We're talking about a trade today. Let's get into it with the lead. Podcast listeners, I'm sorry. You missed the lead today. You won't understand what I was doing. Welcome into Oilers Nation Everyday, a breaking news edition of the show. We come to you live from the Sports Closet studio, from jerseys to hats to the legendary foam finger. You'll find it all and more at the Sports Closet, sportscloset.ca. The show's a presentation of Bet365. Download the app today and use the promo code NATION. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Not an ordinary show. The Edmonton Oilers completing a trade this morning, sending forward Evander Kane to the Vancouver Canucks at his full salary, all $5.125 million off the books. And the Oilers get back the fourth-round pick that they traded Vancouver last year for Klim Kostin, or for Vasily Podkolzin. Oh, not Klim. Don't say Klim.
Spoilers. Yep. Fare thee well, Evander. Good Oiler in moments, bad Oiler in moments. Will I miss him? No. Will I remember him? Yes. Thank you for your time.
All right. So let's do a couple of things here. We're going to do a best of Evander Kane moments. We're going to do a whole bunch of stuff. Best of Evander Kane moments. We'll talk about this. I lost my train of thought because I saw something that I thought was a trade, but it wasn't. We're going to do best of Evander Kane moments. We're going to break down the salary cap ramifications from this deal. Yeah. Talk about what's potentially next for the Edmonton Oilers. Here's a hint. If you are a fan of cap dumps, I think the next week is going to be very exciting for you.
You're going to love the other fourth-round pick they're about to get.
Yeah, buddy, if you love cap space and fourth-round picks, you are going to have a fucking week. But when the news came down today, and also classic Evander Kane breaking his own trade.
The only guy in the league that would do that. The only guy.
1,000%. So Evander Kane steps up, breaks his own trade, says thank you to Oilers fans in a very nice post.
Mm-hmm. I'll read it.
No, we're okay. Yeah, what's the old TLDR? Too long, didn't read.
Well, I read the fan part when I did the instant reaction.
I copy and pasted it, put it into ChatGPT and said, what are the odds this was written with AI? And ChatGPT said it was likely written by a human. So
right. That's good. I think he enjoyed playing here. I think you could say this was...
We revived his career here.
A positive spell during his time, and I think the city embraced him in many ways of, like, everyone loves the old rough and tumble guy. Like, you know, Evander Kane is...
This fan base loves players like that.
Yeah.
And we obviously love redemption stories.
And he had some great moments. So, yeah, good luck in Vancouver. Say hello to Elias Pettersson. I'm sure you guys will be pleased.
Well, that's a very interesting angle to all of this, but... Where do we want to go here? When the news came down, I jumped on, my first tweet was, the Oilers need cap space. And, like, if you would have gunned to my head, said, what's your prediction for this trade? I would have said a fourth-round pick.
I assumed cap.
Because Mason Marchment went for a third and a fourth. Yep. They're very similar players. One is a noted good locker room guy, a little bit younger. The other one comes with some baggage and a higher cap hit. So the idea that the Oilers get less for getting rid of Evander Kane than Dallas did for getting rid of Mason Marchment, that lines up. There was a little part of me, though, that was like, Demko? Thatcher Demko, maybe? Maybe the Oilers are adding a second and getting Demko in all of this. That doesn't end up being the case. So were you at all surprised that it was a fourth-round pick as the return?
No, not at all. Sometimes it's the random prospect thrown into these things for contract purposes and stuff like that, isn't it? Like, help out the other side a little bit. But no, I don't. I think this was inevitable, and we spoke about it whenever that was earlier this week and just said at this time of year, like, you're not really looking to win trades. You're just looking to create cap space for yourself. And then in a couple of weeks, we can be like, look, they traded Evander Kane essentially for blank player because they got him in free agency. You know what I mean? That's kind of the way I'm looking at this. It's like, yeah, sure, maybe you wanted more value, but you got a lot of value out of that player. And to get a fourth-round pick that was yours back, I think it's a good trade.
Very good trade.
No cap retention, too.
No cap retention is the biggest one. Like, I am honestly a little bit surprised they didn't have to like keep $1 million to try sweeten the pot for someone to get a pick back, but to get a fourth, get the whole book salary off the books, that's good. Very good deal. Do we have some of the videos that Reese got? Okay, so let's give Evander Kane his proper send-off, because, again, there were some very good moments here, and I'll probably be more critical of things in a few minutes here when we talk more about it and when we get into some comments here. But best Evander Kane moments.
Well, there was quite a few. Obviously, the first one we should go to, I think the one that sticks out to a lot of people, is the forcing a Game 7. I know it was just an empty net moment, but it was still a great
down 3-2 to the LA Kings. Evander Kane is having a monster first round series. Like, his peak was that 2022 run. He was so goddamn good for this Oilers team.
11 goals, I think, on that run.
It was insane.
13. He had 13.
And I think he had 7 of them in that first round. That was his 7th goal of the series, which is crazy. But Evander Kane pots the empty netter against the LA Kings, flashes up the 7. Oilers force the 7th game back in Edmonton. They win. They end up going all the way to the Western Conference Finals. They probably don't get to the Western Conference Final that year if it's not for Evander Kane and the contributions he made to the team. So that's definitely one of the great moments. Another one would be in the series against Vegas, face to the glass as a Vegas Golden Knights fan leans over and flips him the double bird. He blows her a kiss. Yeah. And that really was what you loved about Evander Kane as an Oiler, is that he gave them that edge. Yeah,
and then his post-game interview as well. The iconic fuck around and find out quote from him. Let's play it.
Yeah.
You know, when you want to fuck around, sometimes you got to find out. So that's what happened. You know, when you want to fuck around, sometimes you got to find out. So that's what happened.
So right before, obviously, there was a scrum at the bench as well, and maybe some of you will remember, but they're obviously just focused on the one fight that's breaking out in the bench. But do you remember they did the shot? And in the background is the pure chaos that's happening. And that was obviously all of that stuff. It's very funny. My favorite Evander Kane moment is not a goal that he scored for the Edmonton Oilers, but a play that he made. And it came in Game 4 against the Vancouver Canucks, where Bouchard gets the goal, but he absolutely eliminates Filip Hronek. And that is what he's able to get this. Obviously, the Canucks had just tied the game moments before this too, and the Oilers, this was basically their last chance to go do it and tied up the series. This was huge. The Oilers would have been down 3-1 going back to Vancouver, not really knowing what to do. But look at this. Unbelievable play just to get in so aggressively and then force the puck to get loose end. Draisaitl obviously makes a great play to Bouchard too, but I think this was unbelievable stuff. And ironically, against the Canucks, where now he's calling home again.
That was, like, again, that shift right there, if you could have gotten that Evander Kane a little bit more, I probably wouldn't be sitting here and having the same opinion that I'm happy they got out of the final year of his deal. Yeah, that Game 4 was crazy. Hey, 3-2 win. Oh, yeah, Dakota Joshua with 1:19 left, or with 1:40 left, tied the game up, and then the Oilers just said, screw it, we're going and winning this thing, and they did. That pass by Draisaitl, nasty. That shot from Bouchard was sick. What a moment that was. Someone said the hat trick against Calgary in the BOA. I forgot about that one. Again, a lot of really, really good playoff moments here for Evander Kane as an Edmonton Oiler. Oh, that was a sweet goal. Who fed him that?
I don't know.
Might have been Nude?
CC?
Oh, no, it was McDavid. This one was McDavid, yeah. But he scored this in, like, quick succession, right? Like, it was in the matter of a few minutes.
Yeah.
He was so good in this run.
He was a playoff performer that year.
Yeah.
He just came in with a lot of purpose, and maybe a reason why the others could have kept him around. I know it's a few years ago, but this was a contract year.
Yep.
A guy who, obviously, all we know his history. He likes to get his paychecks. So, hey, who knows what the Canucks are going to get, but good moments from Kane. The other one, Brett actually said it in the chat, is the halfway there goal.
Oh, yeah.
That was a great one, too. The Oilers were obviously up.
Do we have it with sound?
Yes. Okay. Let's play it.
Evander Kane! Their prayers have been answered, and they lead 5-1.
All off the face-off. Leon Draisaitl wins it clean. And it's Evander Kane, 100 career playoff points for Leon Draisaitl. And it's Evander Kane who is more than able, as he threads this one through the traffic, goes off Dakota Joshua. That's what.
Suck it, Vancouver. Bunch of bums.
Someone else, Cato said Kane staring down all the flames. I think it was in the BOA, being like, what are you guys going to do?
Yeah.
That was good. Again, he gave us some awesome memories.
He did.
I also do and like having big game, big moment players, like you need those guys if you're going to go on runs the way the Oilers did. I also think it is very, very fair to point out that the down points of Evander Kane were bad.
They were really bad.
He's like, especially this year in the playoffs, and this goes back to last year. He cannot be trusted defensively. He is poor on his own boards. Like breaking the puck out of his own end is an absolute struggle for him. And he's inconsistent. We had runs where he'd have 3 hat tricks in a month. You'd have runs where he'd go a month without a goal, right? So again, I think the Oilers are smart to get out of this contract while you can sit there and go, Tyler, he's heading into a contract year. He'll be highly motivated to go make sure that what's probably his final NHL contract is worth somewhere between 10 to 12 million and not a 1-year, $2 million deal. And I said that today on DFO Live, and Frank was like, you think Kane's getting a $9 to $10 million AAV? I was like, no. If this year goes well, Evander Kane probably somewhere gets a 2 or 3 year deal worth between $4 and $5 million a season.
I would agree.
If this year goes poorly for Evander Kane, he's signing a 1-year deal worth $2 million. Him playing good or bad is likely the difference between $9 to $10 million in his bank account. And that should motivate him because it would motivate every player. I'm not even making this about Evander Kane.
Yeah.
But what we know about Evander Kane is that when he doesn't have the security, when he's motivated, when he's trying to prove himself, when his back's up against the wall, he plays his best hockey and he is on his best behavior. Vancouver might get that out of him.
Yep.
There's also a downside to this Evander Kane thing. If it doesn't go well, if he's being moved down the lineup, we saw him in Edmonton at times get moved down the lineup and quite honestly pout about it.
In the Cup final.
Remember against the Winnipeg Jets in that one game when he was on the 4th line and he fought whoever it was? And in the intermission interview, he tells Scott Oak, he goes, well, if I'm just going to sit on the bench anyways, might as well sit in the penalty box.
That's right. He did. Brendan Dillon, I think it was.
There's a world where this doesn't go well for Vancouver. And if it turns early, Evander Kane going, I'm in trouble right now. I might not get a good contract because they're not giving me opportunity because of whatever the reason might be. It can sour very fast. And you could get an Evander Kane that totally checks out.
I'm going to make this prediction, and it will be right. Vancouver won't be his only stop this season.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think even if it goes well, they're nowhere close to a playoff spot.
No, their team sucks, so they'll just flip him. Just flip him.
Flip him.
Get your 4th-round pick back.
But yeah, like if you kept 50% of Evander Kane, you actually might get more than a 4th-round pick at the deadline.
Look, 2nd, 3rd, whatever.
So all of that love and everything we just gave about Evander Kane, again, we'll miss the 2022 version of Evander Kane. These were good memories. While you can sit there and go, there's a path to him having a great contract year, yes. At $5.125 million, with the cap situation for the Oilers being what the cap situation is, that's unfortunately not a risk that they could take. Could they have kept 50% of him and maybe gotten a 2nd-round pick? Yes, but the Oilers aren't in a position where they can sacrifice $2.6 million in cap space or $2.55 million in cap space to move up a few rounds in the draft. That's not where they're at. So, Ryan, I see what you're saying. It's only 1 year for Vancouver, so it's not a bad trade. It's a good risk for them to take.
Totally. They need to take the risk almost.
And Vancouver is, quite honestly, not that cap strapped. They now have a full roster, $7 million in cap space. If they move Demko and replace him with Shelovs, they can actually go and sign a $10 million player and be perfectly comfortable and under the cap next season.
Yeah.
They can make an impact move if they want to. So for Vancouver, they could take this and again, roll the dice a bit. If he's going to be a power forward shooter that rides shotgun with Elias Pettersson and they find success, you're laughing if you're Vancouver. If he's on your 3rd line, he has 12 goals by the deadline and you retain half and get a 3rd-round pick, well, then you just bought yourself some draft pick value and you got a free experiment out of it. So it's buying low for the Canucks. It's very smart. For the Oilers, this is what cap-strapped teams have to do. There's casualties when it comes to it. And Evander Kane is just unfortunately that. The Oilers can't afford next year not going well and having an inconsistent, poor defensive forward who has a history of injuries, is going into his 34-year-old season, and plays a style of hockey that usually the decline is sharp and fast.
Yeah.
Power forwards don't typically age that well. And there are many examples of that. Boland, Lucic, Clarkson. Guys who maybe didn't quite have the same ceiling that Evander Kane did, although Lucic definitely would have.
Yep.
But once they go down a little bit, they go down a lot. You had to do it.
Yeah, you had to do it. And I think, too, for like the Oilers, like you were saying, like, they can't just sit here and wait to see if this guy is going to be good. I don't know if you guys noticed, but Connor McDavid only has 1 year left on his deal.
Yeah.
He's looking for a bit of a plan here. And I'm sure part of the plan was we need to find players that are more consistent and are going to contribute in the playoffs when they need it the most. And an agent Evander Kane probably just isn't going to do that. Ryan went on to say as well, like James Neal, Zach Cassian, like exactly. Like the Oilers have been down this road. Like it didn't cost him much anything to get out of it. They were able to just get rid of him. So I think it's a good deal. They now have, $17 million in cap space.
Yeah.
It's a good way to go. It's what they needed to do. Like
I'll break
said,
down the
they'll do
cap
more.
situation in a little bit here.
It's all gone, I heard.
Yeah, it's all, well, because as Pierre LeBrun pointed out, and again, I shouldn't have even thrown shade at anyone, but like Draisaitl's money. Yeah. So yeah, the cap went up.
Yeah, we're good.
Here's
all
the
good,
thing.
guys.
When the cap goes up, players get more expensive.
Yeah. Pierre LeBrun also the one that's been saying that McDavid, if and when he leaves.
The national media is just having a field day with it. Anyways, Tyler, what would you grade Kane's performance in 2023-24 and his great performance in most of the playoffs this year? I will put a big pause on great performance in most of the playoffs this year because I don't believe that to be true. I think he had himself a very good first round, obviously. He came in, gave the Oilers some jam against LA, scored a couple of goals, pretty timely, racked up a ton of shots. He looked like vintage Evander Kane. That's the reason why in one of those games against the Kings, he played 23 minutes, and he was north of 14 in all but one. Against Vegas, he was good.
I'd say he was good. He had an impact on the series in moments.
Against Dallas, he scored 1 goal. And against Florida, he took more minor penalties than scored goals, and it's actually not even that close when you consider the too many men. And he lost his cool. So I don't think he was all that good at the end. I mean, He was a true negative in the Cup final. A true negative. He hurt them way more than he helped them in the Cup final. Rounds 2 and 3, he was a slight positive, but not a $5.1 million positive. In round 1, he was great. The thing is, as he ages, injuries continue to be a concern. I don't trust that next season you would have gotten, forget 80 games, I don't think you would have gotten 50 games of good Evander Kane. You would have gotten spurts of it, and you would have always been holding on to what can happen in the playoffs, what can happen in the playoffs. But the Oilers just can't, again, that's a luxury they cannot afford.
When he did play his regular season for the Oilers, he went on that streak where he didn't score in 20 games.
Yep.
Yeah, whatever it was, he didn't score. So, you don't want to, again, you just don't want to run into that. Someone asked in the chat, sorry, your name scrolled by already, and who do you see as his replacement? Buddy, they've already got him. Vasily Podkolzin is just going to keep playing top 6 minutes until they find someone. They just need to score a little bit more.
Okay, well, and then let me also outline this, because we know that Knobloch wants to get better or wants to get younger and faster, right?
Yeah.
So you want a player who can play in your top 6 and your bottom 6, who can hit and who has decent hands and scoring touch. He's not, the ceiling's not as high, but you can get Kasperi Kapanen for $4 million cheaper than you had Evander Kane.
Yes.
I will take Kapanen at 1.25 versus Kane at 5.15 all day. And Waz in the chat says it's Frederick. One of Frederick, Podkolzin, or if you bring back Kapanen, one of those 3 can always be in the Evander Kane spot. And guess what? You're not losing anything.
No, you just got cheaper players now who will just be as inconsistent.
Well, and that's exactly it. You can sit there and be like, oh, Frederick, we don't know what he's like with the ankle. We don't know. I can make that same argument for Kane. We don't know what his health is going to be like. Again, after 2 major surgeries, does he hold up through a full regular season? That's just as big of a question mark as will Trent Frederick's ankle be okay?
Yeah.
And you can talk about, will Podkolzin ever find his scoring touch? Again, there's risk to Kane. You can talk about, will Kapanen, who traditionally, once he gets comfortable in a spot, Kapanen's play falls off. Will Kapanen still have the same impact? Yep, there's risk there. But I will take risk. Granted, Frederick 3.8, maybe a bit too rich for my liking. But I'll take the risk on Podkolzin and Kapanen. I'll take risks on guys who are $1 to $1.25 million. Yeah. The Oilers can't take a risk on a $5.1 million player.
Yeah, they got to move on from this because even aside from Kane, like we talked about it, like the free agency guys, like you're signing Jeff Skinners and Arvidssons on these cheaper deals, let's call them, and they're just not panning out consistently enough. They need to find that consistency off the ice as well and who they're bringing in to perform at this stage.
All right. Let's talk about the salary cap implications here. I want to give you the cap picture. This next segment is going to be brought to you by Star Mechanical. It's Edmonton's #1 plumbing and heating company. Whether it's residential, commercial, 24/7 emergency service, they do it all, and they do it well at Star Mechanical, one of Edmonton's largest locally owned and operated businesses. So I see some of you asking in the chat, what is the Oilers cap picture like now? So if you go to Puckpedia, they have $16.2 million in cap space. That is with Max Jones and Matt Savoy on the roster.
It was 17 before. I wonder what happened.
They added Savoy to the roster with this move. Let's take Max Jones off the roster.
Okay.
He'll start the year in Bakersfield.
Oil to the max is gone.
So that means, and Aaron, you did, okay, we won't show it yet. We won't show it yet because I need to do some explaining. So let's take Max Jones off the roster. The Oilers have $17.2 million in cap space.
Okay.
For the simplicity of math, let's say Evan Bouchard is 10. Nice and easy 10. Okay. And Trent Frederick is 3.8.
Sure.
So you go from 16.2, you got to add 13.8. The Oilers have $2.4 million in cap space with 10 forwards, 7 defensemen, and 2 goaltenders on the roster. Let's, again, for the simplicity of everything here, say that Noah Phillips on the roster, and that gives you and Trent Frederick is signed, so that's my bad. You're now at 12 forwards. With Philp on the roster, Savoy on the roster, Frederick signed, you're at 12. So, Aaron, you can flash up my mock roster here. Nuge, McDavid, Hyman, Podkolzin, Draisaitl, and Arvidsson still, Henrique, Frederick, and Savoy, Janmark, Philp, and David Tomasek. The defensemen are the same 7 that they ended the year with, Skinner and Pickard between the pipes. This lineup right here, which you could ice game 1 of the season, is not only cap compliant, but it actually comes with about $2.6 million in cap space.
Okay.
So if you want to upgrade your goalie, you can remove Pickard's $1 million cap hit, and you would have $3.6 million in cap space to upgrade your goaltending. So the next step I kind of took in this exercise is if you signed, and I will find my screenshot here just so I don't mess up the math, I think it's a pretty close to lock that they're going to end up moving on from Victor Arvidsson.
Agreed.
So with Arvidsson off the roster, the Oilers could sign 2 of Kasperi Kapanen, Connor Brown, and Corey Perry. And let's say one of Perry or Brown are $2 million, but we'll talk about that. And Kapanen's 1.25. So you're choosing between Perry and Brown, and you're definitely bringing back Kapanen. That's $3.25 million. But you have Arvidsson set $4 million off. That's a $750K difference. You now have 13 forwards, 7 defensemen, and 2 goalies on your roster. So a totally full roster that you can run the whole season with. And at that point, you have $4.25 million in cap space, which means they could technically go down to a 12-man forward group versus a 13-man and just roll the dice that some nights they might have to go 11-7. But they would have somewhere between $4.25 and $5.25 million in cap space to play with. And basically all they'd be looking to do is either upgrade the goaltending or you're taking that money and signing a more impactful forward. I think it's probably going to end up being goaltending. So how does this clear up the cap picture? If the second shoe to drop is indeed the Arvidsson deal, the Oilers can ice a full roster with Philp, Savoy, 2 of Connor Brown, Corey Perry, or Kasperi Kapanen, and they will have roughly $4.2 to $5.2 million to upgrade on Calvin Pickard's backup spot. What do you think?
I think you're probably onto something there. I'm very curious about the Bouchard stuff.
Okay.
There's been a lot of conversation about. So the Oilers, Bouchard has 2 years of RFA years left.
Yeah.
So there is a way if they wanted to. I know we've all gone down this path before, but like with Nurse, but like they could just sign him to a 1-year deal if they wanted to. Yeah. There's been reports that maybe it comes in at 1 year, like $7 million, something like that. So that's a way they could get the money down even more. I saw a report today, I'm forgetting who it was from, but like potentially a 4-year deal, which I don't love. The 1-year deal I would honestly be way more open to because at least you have the RFA. Other side, you're just walking straight into.
What was the AAV on a 4-year deal?
It was like 8.5 or something like that.
So like even that though, I get that it would buy you an extra $2 million for 4 years, but then when that 4 years is up and he's 29, he is in all likelihood going to be a $14 to $15 million player.
I agree. but that's kind of what was coming out.
You could save money.
It's a way to save money. For me, it was LeBron. You go 1 year or 8 years with Bouch.
1 year is such a bad idea.
You can't go in the middle. I don't love 1 year, but I understand it too. Of like, okay, we need to go out and get, like we talked about the top 6 forward, for example. Like we want to get him right off the bat, and we get Ehlers or something.
But his
like
ARB case is so good that a 1 year deal is probably $8 to $9 million.
Maybe. But that was just kind of what the conversation was. I would go full 8 years, and I think you just suck it up and take the 10 because it's going to benefit you down the road, like we all saw with Draisaitl. Yep. You don't want to get in a hole like you did with Nurse. That was it, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think Arvidsson, you're right, is the next piece to go.
And based on what we just saw for Kane, I bet you're getting a third or maybe even better for Victor Arvidsson.
I think you get better. He's less money. He's younger.
You might get a second round pick for him.
I think a third.
Early third?
I think you could get 2 picks for him, maybe get like a third and a fifth.
Okay, yeah, that's
Something
fair.
like that.
I could subscribe to that. Ryan says can't do 1 year because McDavid's up next year. But there are some other advantages. Ekholm's deal expires, Kulak's deal expires, and Adam Henrique is off the books as well. Also, Jack Campbell's dead money. Oh, it doesn't drop for 2 more years.
The other thing with Bouch, I did see a report yesterday. I should have wrote these down. It might get done within the week.
Really?
I saw that today. Last night. Somewhere reported like it could be done way sooner than we think, which leads me in 2 directions. One is a guy who desperately wants to be here, and the others desperately want him. If he didn't, he would push that to arbitration. Gregor was explaining it yesterday. I believe you have to file by the 5th or the 4th or something like that.
It's by July 5th, and once you file for ARB, you are no longer eligible for an offer sheet.
Yeah.
So if Bouchard's going to sign an offer sheet, it has to be done by next Saturday, or he could sacrifice his ARB rights, which would be very, very stupid to do.
So this was it. It was from LeBron. There is a mutual interest between the Oilers and Bouchard to get something done by next week. All contract options are on the table. LeBron speculates it could be a 4-year deal to bring down the AAV. We'll see what the AAV is. Yeah. If it's like, if you get him at like $7 million for 4 years, I wonder how much that has interest in you with the cap going up so much. I would love it to be 8 again, but I really do think the Oilers are doing everything they can to knock off any money off anybody, which is bold.
And my counterpoint to this, I don't like any of the free agents in this year's class enough to be sacrificing that.
The only way to me this would be justifiable if they go out and get one of those like legit forwards, which I just don't really see it. I'd love to, if someone can actually give me a legit report in the chat too, that would be great. But I have not seen them linked with anybody. They are attached to no players on the free agency market.
No.
Like barely even attached to some of the players we're trying to talk about them trading for as well. It's a really interesting time. I have no indication of what direction they might go down, which is crazy. At this point, I feel like they were really linked to guys at this point last year. Am I wrong? Like the Skinner thing, like he'd just been bought out. I was like, the others might have some interest. It'd be difficult, but it might be. Like I feel like Arvidsson was on the table a little bit too. Like
we heard Arvidsson in the Cup final.
Okay. That's what I thought. So, yeah, to get no one this year is like, what are we doing? Maybe we'll finally get, what was that guy called who signed him? Matt Nieto.
Yeah, that was funny. Someone brings this up in the chat. It was Adarath. He says, should trade Henrique now. I would, if you're sitting there going, do we go 4 or 8 years with Bouchard to save $3 million? I would much sooner trade Adam Henrique and go sign Cody Glass.
Yeah, I would agree. That's the way to go.
There's so many better. I would much rather trade Brett Kulak than not get the full term. Brett Kulak, Aaron, he sucked ass in the Stanley Cup final. He was next to Ekholm, maybe their worst defenseman.
He was still great for 90+ hockey games. A lot of guys sucked ass against the Panthers.
I think Kulak's low on the trade list, but you're right to save the money.
He's an option.
Yeah, if that is the deal breaker, we got to shave some cap here. Can you survive till the deadline to go out and have what's he called? Emerson and Stetcher in your lineup more consistently. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like it's probably an option. Again, I'm very curious about the Ekholm thing to start the year with the blue line, which I said it on ONL yesterday, and I'm staying on this point. I wonder how much opportunity Bo Akey gets throughout the season next year. He will not be a player in the lineup every night by any means, but if somehow Ekholm does start the season on LTIR, let the kid play. Let the boy watch.
Also, Aaron, I think you're using the broken XLR because people are saying they can't hear you.
It's too bad.
We got to throw that one in the garbage.
He said, let go of Brett Kulak.
Yeah. 56 points. We'll talk about some guys who are not getting qualified here in a bit. But there's sort of your cap picture update. Again, if they were to move Arvidsson and move no one else, they will likely have $4.25 to $5.25 million to upgrade their goaltending or upgrade somewhere else with a full roster.
People keep bringing up, and I think this will be a quick conversation. Philip Kurashev was yesterday not qualified by the Chicago Blackhawks.
Yeah.
A guy who has put up numbers.
54 points in 2023-24 when he was only 24 years old.
He's also a guy, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, was healthy scratch last year.
In Chicago, yeah.
Bumped down the lineup.
He sat some games.
Yeah, I don't know. If he was anything, then the Blackhawks would just keep him.
But that's also an organization who in the middle of the rebuild let Dylan Strome go for nothing.
Yeah,
and
true.
I do think there's a point of as much as I get where you're coming from, that if that guy was not good enough to play on last year's Chicago Blackhawks, how is he good enough to play on the Oilers? But there are past examples of, Gustav Forsling wasn't good enough to play on the Blue Jackets when they sucked, and all of a sudden here he is.
I just don't think every player is that case.
No, they're not.
Yeah.
But you only find those guys if you take shots.
Like Kurashev has 317 NHL games played, and he's played in the NHL. That's 5 seasons now.
Yep.
1 season he has had more than 9 goals.
Yep.
I think the good season was the outlier.
But the 1 year, his rookie year, he scored 8 in just 54 games.
Yeah.
So that paces out a little bit better.
6 and 67.
7 and 51 this last year. So that paces out to 13. Again, you can sit, and this is where your pro scouting has to be good, because you can look at Kurashev and be like, oh, he's just not a good player. He just happened to play a role on a bad team. Or you can sit there and go, if we put him with some talent, maybe there's a player here, and he's only 25 and it would be cheap. Again, if the Oilers want to try get younger, they're not getting younger by drafting and developing.
No,
they've traded too many draft picks. That ship has sailed. You're only getting younger by finding more Vasily Podkolzins.
I just think I would look at the Cody Glass, like you said.
Yep.
A guy who has gone through the ringer, I guess you could say, of it's been recognized by a couple organizations now that this guy is not a top 6 player, but he can play a role in your bottom 6. I feel like with Kurashev, he is not a bottom 6 guy. You have to play him in your top 6, which kind of handcuffs you a little bit.
A little bit. Or he's Kasperi Kapanen, where, actually on the 4th line, he moves around and he handles the puck well, and he's not that bad. I know a lot of people are on Lucas Reichel as well, who's a 23-year-old with Chicago. He was a first-round pick in 2020. He's never really found a way to produce any offense at the NHL level. I'd be more optimistic potentially in a guy like Kurashev, who at least I can point to 1 season where he's done it.
Yeah, out of those two, I'd probably pick him, I guess. I'm not sold on them. They worry me. And I know, the example that you gave of Forsling is right. And, there is obviously other positive ones, but, I don't know. Those ones, I just don't think the Oilers are in that spot where they need to go out and find that kind of project. Podkolzin, you knew he could bang and crash, and he had those attributes. I just don't think those other guys have it.
Jay Gonzalez, do the Oilers need to find a Marchand type of player that's ratty? No.
They had one. They just traded him.
They just traded him for a 4th-round pick. I think that kind of stuff is a little bit overrated. Even in the Cup final, how much was Florida getting under their skin? Marchand made an impact because he scored a shitload of big goals, not because he was pissing off the Oilers.
I think the Oilers got under their own skin more.
Yeah, they were in their own heads.
Yeah, and also, too, Trent Frederick. Isn't that what he is?
Yeah. Someone said, apparently, and by the way, our YouTube chat's brought to you by Odd Company Brewing and Nation Beer Everyday Lager, a crisp, clean lager crafted not just for game day, but for every day. Someone said, apparently, Kirby Dach is available out of Montreal. They added a comment about Bob Stauffer that made me chuckle. 24 years old, right shot center from Fort Saskatchewan, scored 10 goals in 57 games last year, a guy who's just been hurt way more than he's been healthy in his NHL career. A couple years ago, he missed the entire season with a knee injury.
Yeah, it's too bad.
It's too bad. So, again, if you were to call Montreal, and I don't think this deal works, but who knows? If you were to call Montreal and be like, do you want to get more consistent in veteran? Henrique for Dach. Again, would be an awful deal for the Montreal Canadiens.
But in that context, it makes sense. There would obviously be more to it.
Yeah.
But I think that Bob also didn't say that. I listened to the show. Bob just said he would be a player I would like to bring in. He did not say he was available. I don't think Montreal's in the market to do that. They just made the playoffs.
I agree. But again, if like these are and people were saying like quit taking stabs on mushy middle players, and like I agreed with that. Like my take the other day was like you need true impact. But I also am a fan of getting younger and taking stabs in the bottom six. Like if Lucas Reichel doesn't cost you a lot, like let's say Chicago's like give us that fourth you just got for Kane and we'll give you Lucas Reichel. I do that. Because I'm sitting there going, what are the odds my fourth round pick turns into anything? I'll take a stab at the little bit older Lucas Reichel who steps in right now and helps. If whatever, Montreal was like, yeah, hey, we're looking to move Kirby Dach because there's other things we want to do with our forward group. Like, remember, they have Newhook signed. They just signed Jake Evans. They're apparently looking for another top six centerman. They have Demidov coming over. They might just sit there and be like, you know what? We need a different look in our top six and in our top nine, I should say. We're open to moving Dach. I'd make a call on Kirby Dach.
I would call. His cap hit's friendly. Right shot.
Again,
Why
right
not?
shot's huge. Like, if he could be your right shot guy behind McDavid and Draisaitl, Kirby Dach, Trent Frederick with Kasperi Kapanen, that's a line that I think would have some juice.
So, Chicago traded Kirby Dach for a first-round pick, which ended up being Frank Nazar, and a third-round pick. So, that was in 2022. So, he was still only 22 years old at that point. Yeah, I like Kirby. I think he's a decent player.
Always love a good homecoming story, too. Okay. The NHL is still investigating the Oilers for their use of LTIR. Nothing's going to come of that.
So, a refresher on that for people who might not know exactly what happened. Kane obviously missed the start of the season. Well, missed the season because he had his hip surgery, groin surgery, whatever that was. Something in that area. What the NHL is investigating is his second surgery.
Yeah.
Because they're saying that surgery came at like quite a convenient time.
Like Kucherov's.
To extend his LTIR stint. Because it came in the middle, right at the end of his rehabilitation, but he was still scheduled for 2 more weeks of rehabilitation. I'm getting it right, 2 or 3, whatever it was. Had that surgery, which extended him obviously to gain out of the regular season. That is what the NHL is investigating. I thought Freeman said it best too, and like we said it is like, who hasn't done this when they've done LTIR? Like, conveniently rehab was extended a couple of weeks. He had a setback. The NHL would be wrong to do this to the Oilers.
Yes.
But they probably will. Maybe we won't get that 4th round pick after all.
NHL just goes, thank you. Bye-bye. Okay, let's get to, one of the things we really wanted to get to today on the show. Mock trades. We put out the call on social. You all came through. You gave us a whole bunch of mock trades that we got to go through. So we have them broken down into 2 categories. We have like some totally non-realistic ones that just gave me a chuckle, and then some kind of realistic ones. Should we start with the realistic ones? It's probably the right thing to do.
Can you just read off one of the bad ones first?
Okay. Well, first off, I want to tell the people that today's mock trade segment is brought to you by Budweiser. Budweiser. We still got our Edmonton cans here. We're waiting to crack them a little bit. But Budweiser is encouraging buds to make time for hockey, not excuses. Every goal, every check, every win is better enjoyed with your buds. So phone a bud, text a bud, and call out their excuses for bailing on hockey when it's hockey time. It's go time with Budweiser. All right. Mock trades. You want to start with... You want one bad one?
Yeah, because some of them were awesome.
To Edmonton, Joel Hofer, Jake Neighbors, or Alex Tessier, and the 19th overall pick. Edmonton gives up Victor Arvidsson, a second.
Hell yeah.
The rights to Bergeron and William Nichols.
Okay, my favorite part about this trade is the fact that Jake Neighbors and Tessier are like the same caliber of player.
My favorite part about this is that the Oilers package is not enough to get any one of these one of the 3 assets on St. Louis.
Not even close.
Not like Arvidsson, a second, the rights to a Russian, and a 6th round pick in William Nichols? 7th round pick. That doesn't get you the 19th pick. That doesn't get you... It maybe gets you Tessier. It doesn't get you Neighbors, not even close, and it doesn't get you Hofer. So that one made me chuckle.
Before we continue on, my favorite part about some of these trades was the players I didn't know who they were.
Mm-hmm.
There was 2 or 3 of them whose names were in. I was like, who is that guy?
You know what? Let's just do all the bad ones.
Okay.
They're way more fun. We'll get to the good ones in a bit. Aaron, you can just rifle through them. Just flash them up, and I'll read them. This next one. To Edmonton, Tom Wilson. To Washington, Arvidsson and Kane. Because if you have one great power forward, why wouldn't you trade him for 2 shittier power forwards?
That makes a lot of sense. The guy who drives the culture. But what if we had Kane?
Yeah.
And Arvidsson.
Someone, Grava, says, showing the names of the guys who suggested. Wow. They sent them in.
Yeah. Hey.
The tweet we put out literally said,
hey, you can go read the tweets.
yeah,
online
we said
yourself.
we're going to go through them on the show. All right. Next. Rasmus Anderson, 50% retained. Blake Coleman, 50% retained. And Connor Zary for Evan Bouchard and Matt Savoy.
Come on, William. That is brutal.
I don't know what his profile picture is. Maybe he's a Flames fan.
Has to be.
But what?
God, that is special.
So first off, I love Calgary retaining on the final 2 years of Coleman.
Yeah.
Why would Edmonton want him?
Might be.
Maybe. So this might be a Calgary fan. Edmonton giving up Evan Bouchard for an unsigned Rasmus Anderson, 33-year-old Blake Coleman, and pending RFA Connor Zary, and having to throw in Matt Savoy is great stuff. Mike D says, did you ask for mock trades or trades to mock? Tyler says RV is a power forward.
We got a bit of both.
I mean, he's good along the wall, and he plays a relatively physical brand of game.
Whatever. He's a little.
That's not what's funny about that fucking trade.
Yeah.
Next one we got.
That's not what.
I don't want to trade Bouch, but this one will be tough to turn down, I think. Oilers get Dobson and Sorokin. Oilers give up Bouch, Skinner, RV, Henrique, and a pick. I mean, the pick's probably got to be the 2027 first.
Well, why not?
Trades like this just don't happen.
No, they do not. I mean, if hypothetically the Oilers were to somehow get a Sorokin and Dobson, then maybe something similar to this would be the option. But it's just not an option.
Yeah, that's not an option.
I hope these people are in the chat today.
I don't know why either side would do this. Like, if the Islanders are pulling shoot like that, it's because they're getting a shitload of picks and future assets.
Yeah.
Not the same thing.
Yeah.
If Lamorello was still in charge, you'd be like,
I also don't think the Oilers could afford. They could afford it. I've been saying this for months and months. What? All right. One more in the bad pile.
One?
Stu Skinner for Philip Gustafsson.
Skinner's better.
Philip Gustafsson is coming off a season where he had a 914 save percentage, 256 goals against average, and finished, I believe, top 5 in Vezina voting. Minnesota's not trading him straight up for Stuart Skinner.
What did he have the year before?
Year before that was an 899 and a 306. Year before that, 931.
What about the year before?
Year before that, he was with the Senators and he was a rookie. So we're not going to.
Because I just mean like he's so inconsistent.
He's inconsistent, but he has a much higher upside than
it's the same. Yeah.
Than Skinner. They're not doing that trade.
No, they're not, and I'm not doing it either.
Okay.
Lit him up last year.
Then there were a couple that I thought they actually made me think was the criteria for these ones. Jason Robertson for Matt Savoy, Bo Akey, and a first via an Ekholm trade. So you're freeing up the money for Robertson by trading Ekholm for a first-round pick. That probably ends this right here because Ekholm doesn't get you a first-round pick.
Yeah.
Injured 35, 36-year-old defenseman making $6 million, not even getting you close to a first-round pick. If you were selling me on a cap dump of Ekholm and then you're using your 27 first and trading Savoy and Akey, like that's actually probably somewhat right where the Jason Robertson value is. They probably want a good young actual roster player over Matt Savoy, so the Oilers would lose the bidding war. Also, all indications are the Robertson market isn't really a thing anymore. But I like that this guy took a swing like this and actually gave up meaningful assets.
Yeah, it's not the worst one we saw.
No.
I mean, you probably want to do something similar to that if you're the Oilers. Maybe try and limit one of the assets you give up. But if it comes from an Ekholm trade anyway, then it's a bit complicated.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sloppy.
Thank you, Sloppy. This one, bit of an overpay for a pick and retention. Oilers get John Gibson and a fourth from Anaheim, but they get Gibson at $2.5 million retained, so he goes down to $3.9 million. Oilers give up Arvidsson, Petrov, a second, and a third. This is actually really fair. The goalie market, I know Anaheim's asking for 2 firsts. They're not getting 2 firsts.
No.
They're not getting one first, really, I don't think. This might be the best offer Anaheim ends up getting for John Gibson. And it's actually very similar to the Markstrom deal.
It's similar to the Blackwood deal in a way as well.
It is actually very similar to the Blackwood deal.
I think they might have to upgrade the Petrov player, to be honest, because I don't think Petrov will ever be anything. But if you give them like a slightly better player than Petrov, which is a minuscule thing, then sure, I think you got something cooking there. They'll probably listen.
If this is what it took to get Gibson, I would have time for John Gibson.
Yeah, I would too. Yeah. I just think it'll be a bit more.
Yeah. I felt like this was a really good, fair sort of trade.
They thought about it.
Yeah, they thought about it. They have a good grasp on the value. This one gets like a good thumbs up from me.
Thank you, Ken Holland's frontal lobe.
Great stuff. What's the next one we got here? JG Pajot for Henrique Emberson and a third. So I actually think like value-wise and stuff, this is fine. The Islanders would probably just take Henrique then and flip him somewhere where he wants to go. Or they'd like send him back to New Jersey. I just don't think Pajot's an upgrade. I'm not interested in this one because $5 million Pajot having to move Emberson and a third. Those assets can be better spent somewhere else. I don't like this one. Do you? I
like Pajot more than you do.
But are you doing this?
I don't think you need to put Henrique in this deal.
But I would say I don't want to put Emberson in there. I would debate Henrique in a third for Pajot if they kept the money to even it out. But even that,
if we're looking at like realistic though, like why would they want Henrique? They'd probably look at Emberson and be like, we have more interested in him. That's why I think if you do Emberson and say it's a second for Pajot.
It's kind of why I said they'd probably just flip if they're looking at this as we can flip Henrique, no, because they'll get something decent for Pajot. Yeah.
Yeah, they might get a first for Pajot if they just keep him till the deadline.
And keep 50% of them?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I don't think this really works on either end, but I understood the logic. Last one. Skinner, Arvidsson, and a third, and Bo Akey for Jeremy Swayman. So the money works. You're basically punting on Stu Skinner to sign up for 6-7 more years of Swayman at 8.25, but you believe he can be a starter. Arvidsson makes the money work. Boston gets a guy in Stu Skinner who they would, assuming they do this deal, they believe Skinner has upside. They get a third and another D prospect. I don't do this.
No.
But I think if you were to do like value, like how many value points is on each side, it's actually a fair deal, I think. I just don't do this.
No, I wouldn't do this. Swayman is such an interesting case. Why do you think this is fair? Like, why would the others do this?
Because they think Jeremy Swayman has legit starter upside. That's the only reason you do this. Because if you believe that Jeremy Swayman is a future, guy who's going to be top 5 in Vezina voting year after year and all of that, then you do this. If you don't believe that, then it's signing up for a potential albatross contract, and that's why I don't do it. I don't like the risk associated with Swayman because we know how inconsistent goalies are. I don't want to do that.
Yeah, I don't think I'd like to do this one either.
Like, even if it was Skinner straight up for Swayman, like, he's infinitely better. I agree with you. And I probably do it gun to my head. But Swayman's coming off a bad year, and if it doesn't get better, and there are examples of goalies who burst onto the scene and then fizzle out very fast.
Yeah, first time he's played over 50 games in his career as a legit starter, and he has the worst year of his career.
Yeah.
It was also Boston, and they had a terrible year. So it does change things. I think Swayman's good. There's a lot of risk associated to the move. I think he probably has better upside than Stu.
He does, 100%.
It's risky. I don't know. Again, the goalie market sucks this year. We're all going to be so pissed when they don't do anything.
I think people might be a little disappointed. People are telling me to stop. Boston would never do this. Like, never. I agree, because I don't think it's a realistic trade. I don't think they're realistic trade partners. We had Pegnote on, and he said they explored this deal and went nowhere. Because I think they're probably very far apart on what Jeremy Swayman's value is. And they're also very far apart probably on what Stuart Skinner's value is. So,
I agree.
And Dave, problem is you're stuck with Swayman for 7 years. Yeah, that's a tough thing to do. So, most likely Arvidsson gets traded for a third-round pick. I would want Swayman, but unfortunately Bruins say no. Yeah, again, I don't think a Swayman deal is realistic. Toblerus, I hope it's not Jake Allen. Buddy, I think you're going to be disappointed then. Because I'm not even saying it's going to be Jake Allen, but it might be someone who's worse than Jake Allen.
Yep. Get those Anton Forsberg jerseys out, folks.
Get them out of storage, Rogers. We know you had them made at some point.
You're going to get to resell those.
Yeah. Tomorrow, by the way, we're doing a double guest edition of Owen Everyday.
Woo!
Dave Pagnota and Devin Dubnik are going to be by.
Damn.
That's 2 good guests to talk hockey.
Yeah, he's a good one.
Yep.
I'm going to ask Dave a very serious question. I'm going to ask him, like, can you tell me a rumor right now? Like, I want you to tell me something I don't know. And I'm going to make him.
Speaking of rumors, let's get to the rumor mill. It's brought to you by Sherwood Power Sports and Marine, located right in the heart of Sherwood Park for all your outdoor needs. Boats, motorcycles, ATVs. Lake season is here. You got to get your boat tuned up. They offer door-to-door service from their A-plus service department, Sherwood Power Sports and Marine. Here's your rumors. Pierre LeBrun, Mitch Marner, Rasmus Anderson, and Aaron Ekblad are all on Dallas's radar. Give me 1 second here. Dallas has $1.9 million in cap space.
Well, when they trade Robertson to us for Aiken and Savoy,
They can afford one of those guys.
yeah, I don't really know what.
Trading Robertson to sign Mitch Marner to a bad contract would be a hilarious thing to do.
Well, it probably means Granlund is available this offseason.
He's a free agent. 33 years old. I'm nervous about a Granlund deal. Also, the $1.9 million probably all has to go to Jamie Benn. So they have no money. The Dallas Stars are going to do nothing. There's a prediction for you.
Breaking news. Rumors. Along with the Oilers.
Frank Saravalli has Jordan Kyrou all the way up at number 2 on his trade targets board. He says the Blues might view Jimmy Snuggerud as a potential replacement, and the Blues know they would get a lot for Jordan Kyrou via trade. He added on DFO Live with Tyler Yaremchuk and Frank Saravalli, live every weekday at 10 a.m. Mountain. He added that this wouldn't be a deal that they're looking to just get picks and futures. They would want to do it for another quality player in return. The idea of Kyrou for Dobson was floated out, and Frank said that's maybe like along the lines. I don't want to misquote him, but that was discussed on our show. I would love Jordan Kyrou here. I think that's a good contract at 8.125 for 6 more seasons. That's probably going to age really well as the cap goes up. He's a bona fide 30-goal guy. If Edmonton could ever make the money work, I'd love it. I just don't see a world where they have the pieces to satisfy what St. Louis would want.
Yeah, I would agree. It'd be a very tough player to.
It's like Robertson, right? Like, it's so hard to find a deal that would work between the two sides.
Yeah, like he just, unfortunately, the Oilers weirdly don't have anyone to trade. Like, their pieces is kind of locked in. It's got to mush around the edges a little bit.
Yep. Got to take shots on guys. You aren't really going to get a bona fide guy via trade. I'd be stunned if they do. David Pagnota, it would take one heck of a deal to land Jordan Kyrou. Yep. And again, I think you're looking at, well, another thing that complicates it is Jordan Kyrou has a full no trade clause. So if you're sitting there being like, they'll trade him for Peterka, Kyrou's probably like, nope.
Yeah, where's he from?
He's Canadian.
Is he a Toronto boy?
Yeah,
Maybe
born in Toronto.
Maybe Buffalo isn't such a bad idea. Everything's a bad idea in Buffalo.
Except for the Bills. Well. I could see him ending up in Toronto.
This would be a good Toronto player. Craig Berube.
Yeah.
He's very upset. Remember when Berube got fired?
Oh, yeah, he was. So,
cried.
Okay, well, let's cook up a mock trade here. Kyrou and let's put a defenseman in this deal. Kyrou and Nick Leddy to Toronto in exchange for, God, the Leafs don't have anyone good. Morgan Riley.
But if they just trade Carter Hillaby and the other fella for Ilya Sorokin, then Brad Treliving will be the best GM ever.
Let's do Easton Cowan. He's their best prospect. Morgan Riley. Oh, God, they don't have any first-round picks for the next 3 years. Yeah, Leafs can't do it. Never mind.
No.
We're done. Frank adds on the free agent front, Gavrikov is likely going to get a 7-year deal at almost $8 million.
Well, that seems like a pretty bad idea.
Again, if you want to bitch about Evan Bouchard at 10, wait till some of these contracts start coming in.
Oh,
Because,
boy.
buddy, Gavrikov at 8, yikes.
I think Gavrikov is a decent player, and again, we got to cheap our minds to the new cap that we're going to be living in, but yeah, that one's not going to age too well, I don't feel like.
Brian says you'd have to give up Nyes for him, and I don't think they would do that.
For Kyrou?
The Leafs, yeah. They're not trading Nyes for Kyrou.
No.
So.
Nyes probably fits the mold of a player they would want anyway.
Yep.
Yeah.
So there's your rumors, brought to you by Sherwood Power Sports and Marine. A Sherwood Ford Giant question for you. Brought to you by Sherwood Ford, the Giant, and the Nation Valet Service. Never visit the dealership again for your routine car maintenance. What's the next move? Pretty easy. It's going to be Arvidsson.
Fare thee well.
It's just a matter of does it get done by the end of this week?
I'm going to say yes, it will. It'll be done by Saturday.
It'll be done by the draft, by the end of the second day of the draft. Yeah, you're right.
The end of round 1, whenever. Is that Friday? And then the Oilers will pick 5 times in the draft, I would guess.
Yeah, and I mean, again, I don't dislike them doing it that way. Like, go trade these guys, get some picks, draft a couple prospects, sure. I also wouldn't dislike the idea, like if you're getting a third for Arvidsson, if you're now picking this year in the 3rd, 4th, 6th, and 7th, you're adding 4 prospects to your pool. I wouldn't be surprised if the Oilers with Arvidsson look for a 2026 pick just to give themselves some trade ammo.
Yeah, I would agree. If they get 2 picks, 1 this year, 1 next year, whatever it may be. They've drafted relatively well.
I like that. Maybe like a 3rd next year, but a 4th this year.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I could do that.
Lines. They've done a good job of drafting players last year.
Yep.
Not the last year.
Mike D, if Gavrikov's getting 7 or 8, I'll add, then we better sign Bouchard before he asks for 13. Yeah, like don't bridge this guy. Sign Evan Bouchard now. Right now.
I don't think he would ever get to 13 with him. Unless, again, they bridged him, like you said.
Yeah.
They met with McDavid yesterday.
They did. Ryan Rashog saying that McDavid's reps, Edmonton, Jeff Jackson and Stan Bowman flew to Ontario to meet with McDavid's reps and talk to McDavid. So they're chatting with Judd Moldover. The fact they're already going out there on June 25th to talk to him.
I think this is probably one of the first legit conversations they've had.
Probably.
And people will see that as like a negative and be like, how could they leave it so late? It's like, they just played. They don't talk about this shit during the playoffs with McDavid directly anyway. So this is like pretty status quo, like a pretty normal thing to happen. Don't expect McDavid to sign on July 1st. Like we said, like it's gonna drag out.
Yep, totally.
Because
every star player does.
Yeah. But again, Bouchard might sign within the next week, which would be great.
Yeah. Mulick putting a wrap on, says LOL too, on the Vancouver side of things. Remember, it's not a 4th for Evander Kane. It's a 4th and letting Besser walk for Evander Kane. They could still sign Besser if they wanted to.
Rob, I'd bridge him if he learns, and if he learns to play defense, play him more. He was actually statistically their best defenseman in the playoffs. And
he was, and it wasn't particularly close. On the penalty kill. And Rob, we're not going to wrap up the show till you say this. How do you feel about Darnell Nurse? Do you like him at his contract? Oh, we'll wait. I hope Rob's a fast typer. While we wait for Rob, let's wrap up the show for our friends at Bet365. Download the app today. Use the promo code NATION, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Yesterday, I told everyone take the Eric Lauer strikeout prop.
Oh, yeah.
Quick 3. I was vibing with the gambling gods last night.
Okay.
I like doing home run parlays. Like last night, I had a night where Amber was off at soccer, so I'm like, it is me and my TV tonight. So I was like, I'm going to bet on some baseball. I did Kerry Carpenter and George Springer each to hit a home run. Carpenter went yard in his first at bat, so it's $10 into $350. And I was like, man, all I need is a Springer dinger. And they were offering me a cash out of $25. Springer didn't hit one for his first 3 at bats. Cash out dropped to 20, and at that point, I was getting kind of smoked. None of my bets were hitting. And I was like, should I just take my $20 back? And I was like, no, let it ride. George Springer grand slam in the 8th inning.
Damn.
Nailed it. And then it was an electric 10 minutes in my house. Springer hits that. As he does that, the Tigers pull off a crazy comeback to win the first 5 innings.
Okay.
And then the Diamondbacks took a lead on the White Sox. So my other big parlay, 50 into like another 360 hit. And I was sitting there on my couch being like, I just won $700 in like 10 minutes. That's good living.
Not a bad way to live.
Not a bad way to live.
Who caught Matt Carpenter?
Kerry
Carpenter.
Yeah. And then I went on a 10-kilometer rollerblade. I was working. I was working last night. Anyways, Tyler, you should have went and watched her play soccer. Supportive. Oh, Rob replied.
No, I don't.
He said, nope, I don't. Well then, Rob, you should probably just sign Evan Bouchard now before you have to sign him and make the same mistake you made with Darnell Nurse. How many times do we have to say that to y'all? Listen.
Come on, Rob.
Anywho.
You're a regular.
Blue Jays get Max Scherzer back on the bump tonight against the Cleveland Guardians. He's back after his injury run there. I like they're facing Gavin Williams, who's pretty good. Scherzer's over-under is 4.5. I don't really like that number tonight, but I would take Vladdy over 1.5 bases. He's due for an extra base hit. Boom. Take him and the Jays to win.
Canada played yesterday.
Yep.
I had a nice little parlay on them. They played El Salvador.
And smoked them?
The final was 2-0.
Okay.
But El Salvador was down to 9 players in the end of the first half.
Oh, boy.
So El
They
Salvador,
just kept getting cards?
They got 2 red cards.
Oh, jeez.
They, you can imagine, pretty violent team.
Yeah.
They like to throw out their elbows and roll around and all the good stuff. They're the toughest guys on the field. So someone touches them and all of a sudden the theatrics start.
Roland, $10 million USA or USD. These players are greedy. They don't care about championships, only money. Yeah, buddy, and you would only care about it too if you were being offered millions and millions of dollars. We do lose perspective on that. It is very easy for us to be like, take less to be a winner. And then when you're Evan Bouchard and it's like, Evan, think about how much you could do with an extra $2 million per year over 8 years. That's $16 million. A lot of money.
Yeah.
A lot of money. And it's a sliding scale, right? Like if you're someone who makes, $50,000 a year in your job, and you think about someone who makes $400,000 in their job, you're like, oh, what's 50K? Like, oh, what? And then you get to, right? And you get to the, For these players, like turning down $16 million, my point. To us, it's like, wouldn't you want a Stanley Cup? But when the paper is in front of you and it's $16 million, it changes things a little bit.
Yeah, that'll change. I'll take 10 mil whenever someone wants to offer me that. So
yeah, I'm open to it too.
I don't really have a problem with players making the money. It just is what it is.
And like, again,
it's not changing as much as
the Leon in here goes, all professional athletes are overpaid, myself included. I'll tap another sign I like to tap. If you're mad about professional athletes and how much they make, there's someone out there who can afford to pay them. Your beef should not be with the millionaire athletes. Your beef is with, this is Comrade your MJ here. Your beef should be with the millionaires having all that money to pay them, right? Like these guys, but then there's these guys. If he's overpaid to play hockey, think about the guy on top.
There's
the checks.
32 people in the NHL that pay for everyone to play.
All right, well, that's a good point to wrap up the show. Scott Aroni, got to go from 50K to 45K for the company to succeed. Yeah. Rob, they all get paid far too much money. Wish I was good at hockey. Yeah,
I
man.
agree.
Tyler Mueller, yeah. I don't care how billionaires spend money on millionaires. Like, exactly. Like, who cares?
It's honestly something I never think about.
No, I don't give a fuck. It's all make-believe to me.
Yeah.
Like, we're sitting here talking about cap space. Like, that's the lens I view it through. I don't view it through, like, how big is Evan Bouchard's house going to be and what are his tax implications. I care about the Oilers winning a Stanley Cup. This is just the byproduct of that.
And if we want to get into it, these guys have to play for free in the playoffs.
Free. I can't believe they donate their time like that.
I know, it's so generous. For your entertainment.
Think about that.
God, what more do you want from these guys? Pay them more.
Yeah. If you're because Jay is balling and paying these guys. Buddy, if you're mad about how much we make, your beef's with Jay. Anyways.
You shouldn't be.
Well, Jay wants us to see us in his office. Oh, boy. Well, that's what happens when you go to 104. That's a wrap on today's edition of the show. Thank you very much to everybody who sent in their mock trades and let us mock them. We'll be back tomorrow with Dave Pagnota, Devin Dubnik, and, of course, all of you in the YouTube chat. Enjoy your Wednesday, everybody. Oil up.